Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. My name is Saray, and in this video we are dusting off the old Petite budget book because I am in desperate need of a budget. I haven't been focused on my budget for a couple months now, and my finances are showing. So we're gonna get back into the swing of things with a budget with me for the month of September. I will be using, for writing tools, I will be using the Pilot Friction Synergy Clicker 0.5, and I will be using a budget kit from my shop. I've gotten lots of questions around the kits. They are coming back. I have been working on reformatting the sheets, sort of like how they used to be before, because I prefer them a lot better that way. So that's what we are working with for this month. So this is the Autumn Plants collection. So I'm not sure when I'll get this video up, but once I do, I don't know if this stuff will be there or not, but they're coming. I'm working my way through all of the different listings and reformatting and beefing up the storefront again, and just kind of getting back into the swing of shop world, shop life. So one of the things that I will be bringing back is the custom label. So these are the Petite budget book custom labels, but they really work in the Petite. I think they work on the A5 as well. And originally I had created these because these books, the Petite budget book, came with pre-filled labels, and now the categories didn't work for many of us actually, because these were some of my most popular items. So I decided to create these custom labels so that you could just place them over. But the other thing that I found, that when I was using the A5 budget book, is that I didn't also feel like rewriting everything every single month. I'm looking for my little... Where'd it go? Oh, here it is. I didn't feel like rewriting every category every single month. So regardless of whether the label was there or the name of the category was there or not, I just didn't think that I want to write it over again and over again. So I'm like, maybe it's a good idea to bring back the labels. So that's what we're going to start with. And they fit perfectly in that spot. And as I mentioned at the beginning of the video, I have been out of control with finances. Partly it's because I'm busy. I didn't feel like I had like a system. I'm gonna do a miscellaneous here. I don't really need that total column or total section. So I'll just call it miscellaneous for any random income that may come, but I don't know who's sending us random checks. No one, but I'll just place that there. Okay, so for housing, I have my categories. So I've thought of a couple of things to kind of get back on track. That includes going back to tracking. I think part of the biggest thing for me is the manual tracking of the transactions. I don't know if that's working for me anymore, or if there's a different way that I can do it. Mortgage HOA. Let me just double check what order are things in. So mortgage, HOA, I think those are the only two categories for this one. So I will go ahead and delete this one. Actually, see, I'm so rusty with the labels, I totally forgot that I actually have blank labels to just put over the category. So that works. So I was mentioning that the tracking of the transaction. So one thing that I used to do before was use an electronic tracking for transactions. like Every Dollar. I used to use that budgeting app a lot, and then I stopped using it for like a good 2 years, more, probably more. But now I feel like I need it. Like I kind of miss it. I need it back in my life. So that's what I'm gonna try to do and see if that helps. So electric, we have our home gas. And then we also have water, which is not every month. Water, so cell phone, electric, home gas, water. I think that's it for these categories. So I'll just use a couple of blank ones for this. Okay. For auto, I have my car payments. I have my car gas, and I don't include insurance on this section because I pay our insurance in full. We have to pay it every 6 months because we're in New Hampshire. I think certain states you have to pay it every few months. So we pay ours every 6 months in full. So that category actually ends up being a sinking fund, not like a monthly, which is essentially a monthly bill too. So we still put aside the same amount as if we were paying it. The only difference is just that we just pay it in a lump sum. So auto, car payments, gas. Next thing on the medical, I put co-pays. I don't put insurance because that's automatically deducted from my paycheck for both of us. So that will be that. For personal debt, I'm going to put credit cards. And yes, I still do use credit cards. I haven't been. I made a commitment to try to, I switched all of my Apple Pay. One of the things, I have an Apple card, and one of the things that I was doing as soon as the card got here, like I linked it and it was great. But I decided one of my commitments was to switch that card to my regular debit card on Apple Pay, and that's what I've been using, and I feel better about that. So I really haven't been using credit cards, but I do have them and I do use them from time to time. So we'll just leave that there. Then I also have groceries. Groceries up here. Dining out. The other thing is that I know a lot of people use like cash and like their cash envelopes. I've tried that in the past. That is not something that works for me at all. The other day I was in the store and I needed to pay for something and I had cash and I was tempted. I'm like, you know, I should probably just kind of pay for things in cash and see if I could get used to it. But there were people waiting behind, and like I didn't want to make them wait or have to deal with the change. Like, what do you do with the change? Not what do you do, but I know what you do, but like it accumulates so much and it drives me nuts. So I decided, you know what, I pulled out my, I think it was at Target, I pulled out my Target red card, which is an ATM card, or not an ATM card, it's a debit card, so it comes right out of my bank account. So it's the same thing as using my debit card, but I just didn't want to have to deal with cash at all. Plus, let's face it, cash is dirty. It's gross. And this is coming, and I know this is coming from someone who I worked in the bank. I work for a bank. I'm not in the front lines anymore, but I've worked for a bank for most of my career, and I started as a teller, and then I worked my way up to management. I was a branch manager. I was a district manager. I don't think it makes sense for me. Hey, if it works for you, great. It's just not something that works for me. Okay, so let's go to the entertainment. So I have Apple. I have Apple times 2 because I have it deducted. I have a couple of things like storage and music. I also have Google storage, but I recently just got that because I needed it, but I'll probably just put it on the Apple because it's only like $2. I have planning. Yeah, I have planning. I have gifts under other, and then miscellaneous. I'll probably reorganize some of these just so that they're in order. They were kind of most of them in order, but in the way that I put them down. But I did add a couple at the last minute. So for savings, I have sinking funds and just general. Retirement, that comes out of our paycheck automatically, so I don't have that. So sinking funds and general savings, which is sort of like emergency too. So I think I'm going to start putting down just the stickers, and then I'll fill it out afterwards. So these are the circles for the goals that I have for this month. And it's going to be a tough month budget-wise, especially with planning, because I feel like there's a lot of stuff going on this month, like you know, a lot of like releases, like the new planners come out for the calendar year, that kind of stuff. I'll probably use the, you know what, I will use, not the orange, because next month is going to be orange. I'll use this one. I love how that fits there. Oh, sorry, I didn't realize that I wasn't in frame. So I put the little calendar down here. It could go a little lower. I forgot. I'm telling you, I'm a little bit rusty when it comes to my budgeting. There we go. And if I'm not, yeah, these three, like, they'll fit across the board here. I do use the mini calendars from EC. I think this is something that comes out around this time of year, and I use these across the board on all my planners, like my wellness planner, my budget planner. I usually order like 3 at a time because oh my god, imagine because I use them for everything, but I was just looking at the kit, yes, and I'm super rusty because I just realized the headers were here. I didn't put the headers on there, but I don't think I need the headers. I'm actually gonna forego the headers because they're purple already. So if it was a different color, I would use the headers, but they're not, so that is fine. Okay, so for this page, oh, so going back to this little calendar, so you could put 3 across and to track like no spends or whatever else you might want to, maybe if you're doing like a savings challenge, you could do that too. So that's an idea. The top column, as I mentioned, those are the goals, and then these, it says upcoming purchases and upcoming bills. I always cover these and I change them and put something else like online purchases, for example, could be another category, and those are here as well. Like if you need to buy a gift for someone, anything that's happening this month, this is like the little header for the no spend, for example. Yeah, I'll put it over here. There you go. And then these little stars are for rating your month. So I usually put them here, and then I write down, they're upside down. I write down my goal, and then at the end of the month, I give myself a 1, 2, 3 star rating on how I did. Let me know, would you prefer 3 stars or 5 star? I've kind of been going back and forth with that one and debating whether I should switch it to 3 or 5. Okay, so for this one says online purchases, but I'm actually gonna, it's so small, like the connection between online and purchases is so small that you can kind of just rip them apart and create your own separate word if you like. So that's what I'm gonna do, because sometimes purchases might not necessarily be online. So for instance, we are in the market for a new dining room table, which we've been without for a little while. And we're probably not going to buy that online. We're probably going to go to the store just to try stuff out. All right, guys, so I am back. So you probably don't realize this, but it's actually the next day. So yesterday I was in the middle of setting up my budget, and my camera had died because I had been using my camera quite a bit. But now, so I had to put it to charge. So I decided, instead of coming back to it last night, just to come back to it today. So it's fine. It still works the same way. So I'm picking up where I left off, which was to set up the purchases side. And then let me get my stickers. I think on this side, instead of this month or anything like that, I think I might use the script remember. You could use the space to like write a quote or something that inspires you for the month in terms of staying on track with your budget, for example, or anything else that you might want to remember there. All right, so those are all set. Now, the next thing I'm going to do, or at some point I'm going to do, is I'm going to fill these out. But I still need to set up a couple more things. So on this next page, this is the spending summary. So here you have space for you to track all of your transactions if you're someone who likes to write down all of your expenses each day. And there's a few pages to that in the Petite. So there's this one page here, another one here, another one here, and then it jumps into the next month. But what I do is that I track my sinking funds balances. So that's what I'm using. So I'm using a header. I'm going to use this one right here, which says date, sinking funds, amount added or subtracted, and the balance. So I put it here on the top and essentially just replaces that header. These headers, I can't remember why I had these here. I'm wondering now if this is for the A5, because I had a couple of different versions, so I'll have to check that. But what I can do is I can go ahead and wipe this part out. That's a real messy white out part. And then I can put the header up here somewhere. Yep, I really like that. And I'll just write September up here. And oh, the other thing too for the kits is that I'm not including like the month, like the September month exactly. I don't think, and that is so that there is flexibility in using it. Sometimes, you might feel like using this kit in November or October, whatever that might be. And I actually have scripts somewhere. Some of the scripts are for months, like the mini month scripts. So these will fit perfectly up here. Actually, since we're here, let's go ahead and do that. So this would be September. Oh, I love how that looks. It looks so cute. And then this one will be another September. I think these are just so functional, like so they fit anywhere, any planner, any hour, anytime. And I also have a large one for this page. Looks amazing. I love it. Okay, but we're not done yet. But wait, there is more. Okay, I feel like I need to do, I usually do the deco afterwards, just once I have all of my bases covered. But you know what? We live on the edge. Beautiful. It is just too gorgeous. Okay, so that was my sinking funds. Let me jump over and do the next one. So essentially there's 3 headers for sinking funds, but I usually, for the most part, I have 2 pay periods, except for a couple times a year where we might have 3 pay periods, because there's 3 pay periods in that month. And I have an extra one here, but for the most part it's just 2. So each pay cycle I deposit, or I try to deposit money into our sinking funds account. I only keep one sinking fund account where I basically just house everything together, but this is what allows me to have that breakdown. So, you know, like homeowners insurance or property taxes, all of those things that we're saving throughout the entire year, I add a little bit each month. And then I if there's any transactions, I also deduct from here as well. So 1 page per pay period. If I had a 3rd pay period, since I am using every dollar for tracking my transactions, I'm not going to use these pages to write down the transactions. I'm not going to do that because I think it would be repetitive. And I actually love the every dollar functionality, where it's not free, this option, but you can pay a premium and it will link your bank account to every dollar. So there are times where I do forget, you know, a transaction, and I think that just makes it a little bit more foolproof for me. So it will link to my bank account, and I can then allow it to just record it on its own, and I still have to drag the transaction into the specific category, which I really like, because it just makes me feel like I'm still in control and I'm checking it often, but I don't have to worry about missing or a transaction, because sometimes what would happen is I would go some days without tracking the transactions, and then my transactions would be all out of order. So it just wasn't perfect. So I'm trying to find the balance between paper and electronic that just works better for me. And I think the 2 could really do will work out. Geez, I can't talk today. So that being said, what am I going to do with these 2 pages? Now, if I had a 3rd sinking fund, I probably wouldn't do a transfer for a 3rd one. I kind of like to keep it uniform, so I'll just do 2 a month regardless of how many pay periods we have. And then on these 2 pages, I have these headers, which is for the bills and expenses by paycheck. So I like to break down what are the bills that are getting paid by each paycheck and how much I have left to allocate to irregular expenses or variable expenses. So that's where this header comes in, and that is the bills and expenses by paycheck. And I'll do this header, I think I'll do the orange one, which is date, budget category, budgeted amount, and actual. So the purpose of this one is to list I can list the bills for this particular pay period. So let's say, I don't know, September 9th, I think is one of the pay periods. I'll go back to the calendar in a second, but let's say September 9th is one of the pay periods. I can list all of the bills that are going to be coming out from that paycheck, and I can also list any variable expense amount that I have for a category. And then I have how much I actually budgeted for it and the actual amount that I spent. And the cool thing is that since I'm already tracking the transactions, or every dollar is tracking the transactions on my behalf, I can just go into every dollar, see the totals, and just write them down so that I have that awareness. I find that with writing it down definitely beats the electronic version. I feel like I'm just a lot more aware when I write it down, but I am taking advantage of the capabilities of the electronic version of budgeting. Okay, so same thing with this side. I'm just going to use my little header over here. And then at the end I can see all of the different, the totals that I spent for each category. So, okay, so I think this setup is pretty much done for the most part. So I'm ready to move in to start to fill it out. Okay, so now we start with our goals. And the first goal that I have is to get the budget back on track this month. So get back on track with budget routine, definitely my number one goal for this month. The second goal is set up every dollar for transaction tracking. And then the third one is all about getting our anniversary gifts and birthday gifts. These next few months are pretty heavy for us in terms of birthdays and things that we have going on. So I want to be prepared for that. So that would be shop for birthday, and anniversary gifts. For purchases, I'm going to include, I want to get the new iPhone, but I'm not sure yet, so I'm just going to put it down as a tentative. I have to figure out the budget first. And then I also have to start planning for Go Wild for next year. So and then I'm going to, I need to probably plan for launches, like all of the planner launches and things like that. Usually there's other things that get added to the launches and I usually end up spending something, so I want to make sure that I account for that. And of course, our dining room table set. Okay, I I don't like how these letters look. I usually go with the spacing within, I go with the spacing between in the stencil when I'm writing in a line. Like for example, in my hourly planner, the stencil is actually lined up perfectly for the lines there. But when it is a plain, when there is no lines, I don't like that they're so separated. So I want to bring it closer to the other one. I don't know why I forgot about that. I never do this. I know it's such a small thing, but it would just drive me nuts. That makes me feel a lot better. As far as remembering goes, I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to use this little flag. And this is not something that we'll probably do this month, but we need to start thinking about it, is our Christmas vacation. We are taking some time off in December, and we are visiting my parents. They live out down in Miami, and my husband's parents live in the west coast of Florida. So we're gonna visit them both on that one trip, and we probably are gonna rent a car. So we need to start looking at some options because the car industry in general is a big hot mess. I use this orange Pilot Friction. This one is actually from Simplified, and Pilot and Simplified did some sort of partnership and a collaboration, and they have these amazing pastel highlighters, and they're erasable just like the Friction line. And the reason why I got these as well is because there was a gray in there that I hadn't seen in the regular packets. So I really like that. And what I'm marking here are the 2 paydays for this month. Okay, I think I'm good with this page. I'm gonna move on to this one. Okay, I totally forgot to cover coffee. That's included in like my dining out budget, so I don't have to have a separate one for that. Okay, so let me think about this page. All right, so here's how I'm gonna do it. I do want to share certain aspects of my budget, and I have in the past, but I'm not gonna share like specific numbers as it relates to our income. I just don't feel comfortable with that, but I can share the items that are the most struggle for me, and maybe this will be some sort of level of accountability that I can have as I start to rebuild my budgeting routines. So those would be those variable expenses that we tend to really overextend ourselves on a more regular basis, that I feel like I haven't had a really tight control. So those fixed expenses, I'm not going to worry about. I mean, those are fixed expenses. We know that we have them, but those variable ones are the ones that I really want to focus on and I want to tackle. And I think that's what might still be worthwhile here. So going down the list, obviously this is the income section. Our housing, mortgage, HOA, those are all fixed expenses. Cell phones, pretty much fixed. Electric, gas, water, they're not fixed, but they're just utilities. Car payment, gas, I don't think that's something that I need to really focus on. One, I don't spend a ton of money on gas. Actually, my husband or I don't spend a ton of money on gas because we both work from home. And even if we didn't, it is just a necessary expense. So I'm not gonna track that. Same thing with medical, like if we need to go to the hospital because we had an unanticipated back injury, yours truly, in August. At the end of August, I hurt my back really bad and I had to end up going to urgent care. And, you know, it was just an expense. So sinking funds, yeah, I probably won't share that one either. But with the ones that I will share are groceries, dining out, my nemesis, life insurance I won't share, gym, that's a fixed expense, hair and nails, clothing, makeup, SB expenses. These are all the any expenses related to Saray Bailey as the business. So I'm not going to share that one. Household I will, but I will, and also planning because I'm trying to hold myself accountable there. I can share gifts, and I'll also include miscellaneous. I think that's a really good plan, and you can still get the idea behind budgeting. So let's start with groceries. I will budget for groceries, let's say 600. And for dining out, I'm gonna do 250 because we do end up going out on Fridays and sometimes on the weekends because it's just the two of us. Sometimes it's just easier to do that, especially if we're out running errands, we're on the go. So really that's the total for all of our food budget. For hair and nails, I do have a subscription. I started, I color my own hair at home, and I started using Madison Reed. And Madison Reed is a hair color subscription system, and I really like them. I've been using them for a couple of months now, and I really like the fact that I don't have to go out and like look for a hair color. I feel the quality is really good with the color. It's pretty simple to use. It's not messy. I really like that. So I've been using it for a couple months, but so it's automatically deducted from the account, and it's like 30. It's a little bit more expensive obviously than like a store, like a drugstore color, but I think it's really good, and actually I feel like it lasts longer as well. So that is $31.50. I'll just round it to 32. Let me get my calculator. And 32. You know what? I'll do the exact number. 31.50, just in case, so that I know. Because if I say 31.50, I know that that's what the charge is. So 31.50, and then for nails, I have been doing my nails at home for the past couple of years, but the past few months I started going back to the salon. I've always gone to the salon for my pedicures, but I think I did go a couple of times to the nail salon. So I'm not sure if I'm going to do that for this month, but I'll still budget it anyway. And that would probably be 120. So that'll bring us to 151.50. Clothing. I do need to shop for clothes. For the longest time I haven't gone any clothes shopping. I'm gonna say I want to say 300. I really do need to update my wardrobe. For makeup, I don't really think I need anything, but I will budget, let's say 50, just for like little toiletries, miscellaneous. Household, I do need to get some fall decorations, so I'm gonna do $100 for household. Planning, oh geez, this is where it gets dicey. Okay, planning. Ooh, this one's a tough one. I'm gonna say I'm gonna budget $100 and we'll see. We'll see what happens. I'm kind of literally, because it's not exactly September 1st, I'm kind of using this this is sort of like just a way to get me back into the swing of budgeting. I'm not expecting this budget to be perfect. It's actually probably gonna be a hot mess. So that's okay. We can readjust again in October. So this is sort of like a trial run. So I know these numbers are probably gonna be super messed up, but we still try nonetheless. So for gifts, how could I forget? Gifts. So we have our anniversary. I have my nephew and my niece's birthdays. So I'm gonna say, oh, and then my uncle's traveling to Cuba, and he's probably gonna see my other grandmother. So I want to send her some money too. So that's gonna be, so let's say 160 plus another 100, 40. I'm going to budget 300 for gifts. And then I'm going to say probably 100 for miscellaneous, just for random stuff. Okay. I think that's good. All right, so I'm good with that. I'm going to move on to sinking funds and start listing these. So for the date, it would be 9/9 because that will be the first pay period in September. And then the sinking fund is just the category. So for example, I'll start with car insurance, homeowners insurance, property taxes, Audible. Although I've been considering canceling Audible because I haven't, well, I guess I do listen to my personal development book on Audible. Artlist is music for my channel. WordPress is for my blog. My car registration. I also use Linktree. Features. I'm going to list every dollar here because it does have an annual membership option. I think it's like $80 for the premium subscription. So I'm going to set aside a little bit every month. I also use the Flow app for lady tracking. Microsoft. I have Canva, and some of these, I'm going to have to rethink some of these and see if I still need them. My Fitness Pal, I use the premium features too because I track my macros, or when I do track, I track my macros. I do use Amazon Prime. And I also use taxes. And then I also want to incorporate here Go Wild again. I did this last year. I had a sinking fund for Go Wild and it was a huge difference. It was so much less stressed when I had saved up for it, so it was great. So now that all of my sinking funds are listed here, I am basically just going to draw a line and I'm going to include the total that I set aside for each. I won't include them in the video, I'll do that separately, but the totals will go here. And then once I have my totals that I'm setting aside for the 9/9 pay period, I will add it to whatever balance I have. And this line over here is just to track any deductions. So for example, let's say my car insurance is due in October, but I'll probably pay it a little bit earlier because it's like right at the beginning of October. So whatever balance I have, I'm going to have a line down here that says car insurance, and this will be a negative balance for car insurance, and then my new balance will be there. Now, when I set up my sinking funds for the following pay period, which I think is on the 23rd, I'm going to bring this new balance over here for car insurance so that I have my carrying total there. So that's pretty much my setup for the month. I'm not going to add the sinking funds here for this pay period because they're exactly the same. We don't have to do that on camera. I can do that separately. But that's pretty much it. I've been using this system for a few years now, even though I did stray away. But it's really the one that I come back to because it's as simple as I can get it, and for it to be, you know, more realistic and more doable. Because budgeting, it takes work. It's not something that some people are thrilled to do, so I try to make it as simple as possible. So yeah. So that is my setup for my budgeting for the month of September. I'm not sure, given where we are, I'm not sure if I'll have a check-in, but one of the things that I do want to do moving forward when it comes to budgeting is to incorporate some sort of check-in just to hold me accountable, particularly on these variable categories that I tend to really struggle with. So maybe that's something that I'll do. I'm not sure if I'll do that for September. I might incorporate it in the October budget video, but we'll see. That's definitely something I want to work on. So there you have it. That is my setup for the budget for the month of September. Let me know if you have any comments or questions down below. Thank you so much for watching, friends. And as always, I'll see you in the next video.